Recently, I just won the first ever major college football 25 tournament where I was flown out to LA, got to meet Reggie Bush, won an honorary Heisman key, and then on top of all of that, also won a brand new car. Now, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dcroft, and I have been competing in professional football video games for the past 5 years. I have made well over $100,000 during my time of competing, and more importantly, I have helped thousands of people improve their game at college. Today, we are going to be breaking down some of my favorite tips in college football in terms of getting you guys better. It's my goal of always providing any type of knowledge to make you guys improve your games and get more wins. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the tips. Today we are going to be talking about my new passing and just settings in college football 25. So recently I was on placement and accuracy, but the dots ability, which is one of the best abilities for your quarterback in this game, does not actually work on placement and accuracy. It just will never register. So for me, I did end up just switching to placement because on placement, that ability does work. There's a couple of other throwing abilities that also don't work on placement and accuracy, and that's another reason why I really liked placement. Now, when it comes to reticle speed, I have bumped it up a little bit up to 7, and that's because I feel like I just need a couple further pass leads when I'm making a lot of these passes in this game currently. When it comes to all of my other settings, pretty straightforward in terms of what I've been doing. Haven't really switched a ton. We do have auto flip defensive play call on, same with ball hawk, and we do have my switch stick delay on none still. Now quickly, just so you guys can see this, we are just on placement and we have Shador Sanders right now, and he has the platinum dot ability. If you guys look at my quarterback right here, you'll notice when I throw the ball, you guys see that that dot ability does light up. Now, if I was to switch this onto just placement right here, what you guys will see is that it will essentially just not activate. Now, not having this ability activate, I think will just cause a lot more overthrows. And just overthrows in this game do happen. And as you guys can see, the dots ability it'll never light up, right? I could sit here for 100 passes in a row and this will just never light up. You guys can see there, again, just not lighting up. One more time, we'll just switch back over to placement just so you guys can see how good this ability really is. So again, just back onto placement right here, back out a little bit further here. And right here again, first time throwing it, you guys see that dots ability does light up. So for me personally, that is the settings and specifically the passing abilities that I would currently be using in college football 25. Real quick, boys, if you guys are a Madden or a CFB player and want to have more fun on the game and win more, throw touchdowns like these, and then also bag the most annoying of offenses, make sure you guys check out civil.gg where I just dropped my tournament winning CFB 25 scheme. We recently did a survey that said 99.2% of players that sign up win more games. Make sure you guys use code Dcroft to save you 30% off at the checkout. Link is in the top of the description and you'll get instant access to all of the schemes on the website. So for the first actual in-game passing tip we are going to be talking about is going to be pass leading. Now, I play on placement and accuracy, which allows me also to be able to freeform. To be able to freeform, you can also hold down L2 or left trigger if you are on Xbox, which is going to give you a little extra boost when it comes to any type of pass lead. Now, with my left analog stick, that is primarily what I pass with. I don't really utilize freeforming a ton in this game, and the thought process I always have behind a pass lead is it should just be a slight boost in the direction I want my player to catch the ball. So for example, we'll go ahead and just put a flat route on the running back. Very easy, very standard route to throw in this game. And what I'm going to do is I'm going with my left stick, essentially, if you guys can see right here, jam it all the way to the left to get that little extra pass lead towards the sideline, which is more likely going to lead him away from the defender. You really want to use pass leading to get better catch animations, whether that is a possession catch animation or a run after the catch animation. That's what you should always be looking for when you are pass leading. So right here, I'm only going to look at Reggie Bush and nothing else. And you guys can see I'm leading him all the way out to the left to get him away from that middle linebacker. So if I go back to replay right here and zoom out like this, if I was to essentially pass lead this on the front shoulder of Reggie Bush, I would not be able to have him get any potential chance of breaking this after the catch. What I do right here, though, is I jam my left stick all the way to the left, and I actually did freeform right here, so I'm also holding left trigger just to get me that extra pass lead. And you guys can see how far this pass gets led out. So far away from this defender from even having a chance at being able to get there. And you guys can see I'm actually able to turn this upfield and get a couple extra yards. If I was able to keep my feet in bounds too, I could probably have like an easy like 10-15 yard gain from something like this. Another very common example is just on an out route, right? So an out route, I'm really going to prioritize with my left analog stick of just forcing this ball all the way out to the left. So you guys can see I'm going to force it all the way out to the left. Now, very important to note, I never freeform a sideline route. That's super important for you guys to note, because if I freeform this route right here, essentially what's going to happen is this ball is going to be, I can't even zoom all the way out, but you guys can like get the vision, right? Like the ball is so far out that I'm not even going to be able to catch the ball. So I will never freeform a sideline route because I need to make sure that my receiver can get his feet both in bounds. Now I will still pass lead this out towards the sideline just so I can have that ball essentially where only my player can catch it. You guys can see like the placement of this ball right here. Notice how there's really just no chance for this defender ever to make a play on it. The ball is either going to go out of bounds for an incompletion, or I'm going to get this animation, which is exactly what we're looking for, which is the toe drag swag on the sideline where only your player can catch it. So that's kind of what I always look for when it comes to pass leading. Rules are just essentially a little bit extra boost on a pass. Don't freeform on a sideline pass. And then really the only other route that we didn't talk about is streaks. Now, I guess we will talk about like back shoulder fades here. It's not really a thing. You know, I think such a common thing that people want to do is this idea of having, you know, this Coleman route on the sideline. You throw it like in between what, like let's just say like the 20 and 15, give or take, all the way out by the hash marks on the sideline as like an outside fade. It's not something you can really do, so don't really ever try to like force a freeform in terms of something like that. Freeforming like a streak, you're more often than not going to want to pass lead it inside. You almost always want to throw it on the front shoulder and not the back shoulder. So that's kind of always my thought process whenever it comes to throwing a streak. Typically, it's better with seam streaks, like right here. I want to like try to lead that inside. Now, that's a little bit too contested, right? But you guys can kind of see the vision, right, in terms of what I'm looking for. I'm always going to throw this on the front shoulder because if I actually threw this like a half second earlier, this is kind of the window we want to throw. And then on this outside streak right here, it's not really like realistic to throw this here. So really just for your seam streaks, you have this little pass lead inside. Actually right here, like if he doesn't jump up right here, if we don't actually get like, I don't even high pass this. If we get like a little bit better of a catch, like this is actually a very easy catch to commonly complete within this game. But that's how I like to look at pass leading, and that's what I would recommend for you guys to help improve your passing game. So tip number 3 is going to be highballing. Now, want to make sure that this is very clear. One, I actually rarely ever highball in this game, and it's just not something that is really that essential to do. Second of all, also, just never highball a route towards the sideline. It's just not going to be a necessity to highball a route to the sideline ever. Typically, you're going to look to highball like a post or a streak route. It's kind of like the two primary routes you're looking to highball. Now, to highball, all you have to do, hold down L1 or LB if you are on Xbox, and that's how you highball, right? Now, you can also pass lead with this too. You can implement some of that stuff we talked about in tip number 2, but you're really looking to highball a route in between that second level and that third level of the defense. So what I'm always looking for is just getting that half step past a defender where a regular bullet pass would probably get picked. But if I highball a route, that's when I can have that route be able to be thrown with a high ball to get it over that head, the linebacker's head, essentially. So again, it's actually going to be pretty difficult to show you guys exactly how to do this. We're just going to go ahead and put 2 routes right here, and we're going to essentially try to pick one to highball. But a lot of the times you're just not going to need to highball, honestly. Like it's not an essential thing in this game. We also do have Tyree Wilson right now on defense. He is like, I think he's 6'5", and if he's not 6'5", he's 6'6". So he's actually going to be very difficult to highball over. So hopefully we'll be able to throw key right here instead. So like right here is actually kind of like a good example. And actually that's like a perfect example right there. I've been trying to get a good example for you guys right there of what it should look like. So right here, right? I see Tyree Wilson, and I also see this slot cornerback dropping right here. Now, obviously, we talked about how tall this Tyree Wilson is. One of my favorite cards right now in this game. 6'6". Very difficult to throw the ball over him. Now, notice, at the time I start throwing this, right, they're kind of level, right? So I'm identifying that these 2 players are level. Obviously, I have a little bit faster of a receiver, so I know I'm going to get like a half step past Tyree Wilson right here. Now, because Tyree Wilson is also 6'6", I know that having like a 1 or 2 yard separation past him isn't necessarily going to be good enough, right? So I highball this, right? And you guys can see, right? This high ball puts this ball truly just so high up in the air where only my guy is going to have a chance at catching it. Now, this is kind of the cons of highballing though. Your receiver is obviously getting off the ground and the catch animations just are not great. Now, I wish I could give you guys like a catch animation tip, right? In terms of like, oh, hold this button down, do this to make it better. The reality of it is just animation based. There isn't going to be a consistent enough tip that I can give you guys that's going to make this good enough to the point where you're going to be confident catching this like 100% of the time. One thing that I will say is you can possession catch high balls. So if you want to try one thing, I would probably try that. But you guys can see, right? The ball goes exactly where we want it. We just don't get the greatest catch animation ever. And then we get hit, taken to the ground, incompletion. But by highballing, that's not a pick though. So that's also a massive pro for us. You're essentially, again, kind of talking about like pass leading. You're just trying to put the ball where the defenders can't catch it. If you know you're going to get a half step past the defender, just go ahead and highball it. Right here, actually against double A gap, this is probably going to be a pretty good look to highball a seam streak again. So like right here too. So right there, he does like a pretty good job of dropping it. Or not dropping. Tyree Wilson does a pretty good job of dropping right there. And again, it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, I wouldn't recommend throwing this, but again, it's like a 50-50 ball. That's Tyler Warren, so like, he's 6'6" himself. I'm kind of putting the ball where only my guy can catch it. Kind of negates the fact of Tyree Wilson from even being able to play this too. So again, like if you're worried about a defender being one-on-one with your player, half step like radius within him, just go ahead and highball. A lot of the times you will have essentially a situation where it's either you're going to catch it or no one's going to catch it. That's kind of how I view highballing, right? Make sure you use it to attack it over the middle of the field. Never highball towards the sideline or anything like that. Also, you don't want to necessarily highball routes that are just like wide open too. Like that's like another very important thing. Like for example, we talked about this flat route earlier, right? Like there's really no point of like highballing this, right? Like right there, I don't get the worst possession or run after catch animation ever. But it's also just like why, right? Like there's no point of me highballing a route like that. So really just make sure that you're doing it when trying to attack that like in between that second and that third level of the defense. With that being said, let's get into the next tip. So for tip number 4, we are going to be talking about reading coverages. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pick a play on offense. And you guys can see if I press down L3 or just left it down on the left stick, that's going to pick a random play here. And essentially what I'm going to do is my thought process and what I read pre-snap every single play. So again, we pick a random play on defense and we'll go ahead and do this twice for you guys. So first play, and what I immediately notice is the alignment of the defensive backs. What I notice right here is that when they're lined up directly over like this is going to be man coverage. Whenever you see something like this, I can almost always guarantee you that this is going to be man coverage like 90-95% of the time. Obviously, in a situation like this, it is then my job as the offensive play caller to call my best play against man coverage. It's always very important to know. If you guys see cover 3, for example, call your best play versus cover 3. If you guys see cover 2, call your best play versus cover 2. And that's the big way that I kind of always look at calling my plays on offense. I take my immediate look of the defense and what is there. And then from there, I'm trying to call the best play that I have on offense against it. Also very essential within your audibles right here to make sure you have counters to every single coverage. So you want to have like your cover 2, cover 3, your man, cover 4 beater all in here. Typically you can mess around with having like a run in here, but just so you guys can see, these are my audibles. I did just have to double check with my camera. It isn't being blocked. Sorry that you guys can't fully see it, but you guys can see like the main gist of the plays from what I'm seeing. And you guys can obviously see the play art when I go up and down too. So again, this is going to be my favorite play against man coverage. And the reason why I really like this play against man coverage is we do have this little whip route from Key right here. Also really like this post route too. If I just go ahead and snap, we did guess right, so it was man coverage. John Ross is open. I just didn't end up throwing it because I just wanted to show you guys the play develop. Now, second time of doing this, we see 2 high safeties. Now, whenever you see a coverage like this, a lot of people are always asking me, what do I read at the start of a play? The best thing that I can recommend for you guys is to just read the safeties. I think reading both safeties, you can gather the most amount of information quickly. It's very simple. If you see both safeties bail, essentially what will happen on that play is it's cover 2. If you see one safety drop, it's going to be cover 3 because the other safety obviously has to be going back into a deep middle third. Lastly, if you see the 2 safeties bail, but it's shorter, right? So like, let's just say they're going straight back like this instead of this. This is going to be cover 4. The reason why it's cover 4 is because they're in inside quarters. And then obviously the outside cornerbacks have to be in a cover 4 shell. If it's dropping like this, so like if they're splitting out more, which more than likely I will say, I think this is cover 2, by the way. That is my pre-snap prediction, so I would also call my best cover 2 play for this play. If they're bailing out like this, it's obviously cover 2. And then it's kind of like maybe you'll have like that middle backer in like a deep middle third. Not a ton of people do that. That's actually like an older adjustment in Maddens you used to see. It's not something you really see much anymore. But that's just going to be a cover 2 look. So again, though it's cover 2, I'm going to go to my best play against cover 2. And we're just going to call this outs route. So very simple play right here. Essentially what we're doing right here is we're just creating a high-low on both sidelines with the flat route from Reggie Bush and then the flat route from Tyler Warren. And then John Ross and Corey Coleman are essentially just running their out routes right here. If I go ahead and snap, we were right. That was cover 2. They did have like a little bit of like matching principles to it, which does happen sometimes. Not a ton of people run match, but it was cover 2, right? The biggest thing was just how these flats played were just a little bit different. If you look at both of these safeties right here, so if I super zoom out for you guys, we'll kind of have it in between. You guys can see both of these safeties bail deep like this. This guy runs like a little bit further in than typically he does. I think it's just because he is so close to this sideline that the way it's running cover 2 is slightly different right here. But you guys can see he bails. Obviously means that these 2 underneath outside cornerbacks are going to be in cloud flats. And then obviously they're going to have like a user patrolling the middle of the field with just 2 hook curls right here and here. Now for me, I would have need to be very quick with my reads right there and then just go ahead and throw like my table route. Don't ever be afraid of just taking your first read too. Like this is something that you guys, I think, need to prioritize doing. Make sure you always have those quick reads on a play, just of where you should get the ball out quickly if you're under a lot of pressure and a lot of under duress. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into our last tip. So for the last tip we are going to be talking about, it's going to be how to throw a receiver open. Now, this kind of does go hand in hand with pass leading, but the biggest thing that we are going to be prioritizing is clicking onto the receiver post us throwing the football. This is also a much more advanced tip, by the way, for more of my comp players. Now, for those of you that don't know, if you throw the ball, you can then hit B or circle to be able to click onto the receiver and have full control of where that receiver runs. So I'll go ahead and show it to you guys right here. Click onto the receiver and you guys can see that I had full control of John Ross and everywhere that he just ran. Now, the biggest thing about this is this idea of essentially swerving and aggressive catching a pass. So what you'll see a lot of times is a seam streak, etc. A lot of people like to click onto that receiver. Then you are going to hold down triangle or Y to click onto that player and essentially cut off a user defender. So if I go ahead and show it with my tight end right here, I can click on, and then you guys can see I have that little control where I'm clicking onto that receiver and then pulling him back to catch the ball at a greater catch point. So if I actually leave this little menu up right here, you guys can see that I throw the ball right here and then I immediately click on. You guys can see that because my little circle has changed from the quarterback to the receiver. You guys can then see that I slightly veer his path. And granted, this isn't exactly like the craziest change of movement you'll ever see from a user-controlled player on offense. But notice how that there is just a slight difference, right? Where previously, I probably could have caught this ball at like the 40, let's just say like the 37, 38 yard line. But by me clicking on, I'm catching the ball almost 5 yards further or closer to the quarterback than I previously was. This can also work very well for like whip routes too and like possession catch animations, where it's like I can essentially just get myself a better possession catch animation. This also works very well for streak routes too, because I can essentially click on and then like slightly move him away from a defender in terms of trying to avoid that knockout. So again, notice right there how like I'm almost just trying to strafe up this ball perfectly. Now granted, I actually didn't get the greatest catch animation ever right here. But you guys can see, I throw the ball like this, I then click onto John Ross, and you guys can see like, let's just say I have a defender on my inside shoulder right here. I'm kind of clicking on right there and just trying to avoid making contact with him and just trying to put myself in a position where I will have a better chance at catching the ball. So again, we'll show this one right here, kind of click on right there with Warren. And that one was on me right there. That's actually pretty rare that does happen. I just got a little bit too crazy right there. But you guys can see like right there, that's like a perfect example of it. You know, me clicking on right there, coming back to the football, and just giving myself a greater chance of catching the ball. So you guys can see right here too, one more time, throw the ball. I'm actually clicking off a little bit slow, I will say. That first one I was pretty crisp with it, but not clicking off as fast as I'd like. You guys can see the same thing right here. Go down. We're rat catching this too, which is a square or X depending on what console you're on, and just catching the ball at a greater point. I don't think there's really much else to say. I guess like sometimes with like sideline routes, this can be very helpful with. So like if I go ahead and like kind of like, you guys can see right there, like I tried to almost like swerve my player back in right there to essentially prevent that throw going out of bounds. If you guys actually look again right here, what you guys will actually see is that this reticle is like so far out right there. So if I freeze frame it right here, that reticle is like pretty far out right there. So essentially what I do, right, is I click onto my player, like try to like swerve him back inside. I don't think I got my feet in bounds. I got kind of a crazy animation right there, but that's like something that you guys could do too. A lot of people have got like good with this, right, in terms of just getting better animations, catching the ball with this. It's very big for KOs too. If you guys are like a Madden player and you happen to be watching this video, this is actually like a lot more helpful of a tip in Madden, I will say. But we're starting to get some like gold knockouts and stuff like that too. With like all these gold knockouts and everything. It might actually become very helpful for you guys in college football to start really practicing this. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, a big thing is like curls, right? So if you have like a curl route like this, go ahead, throw it, click on, and then just, you guys can see I'm catching that ball like 2 to 3 yards further, or closer to the quarterback, excuse me. I keep saying further, but 2 to 3 yards closer to the quarterback than where I would be catching the ball if I just didn't click on. So that's my last tip in terms of like how I like to throw a receiver open. And with that being said, that is the final tip that I have for you guys. I appreciate you guys all watching this video a ton. I'll see you guys all next time.